What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Kathy Wakile. Now, you may know Kathy from the Real Housewives of NJ, but you guys also know, due to my past interviews with Albie Manzo and our friendship, that I don't really watch the show. Now, we do go into the history of the show, how she got involved, which is super intriguing, and then what she learned on the show and how she's taken that opportunity and exploded it into a best-selling book, into a cannoli line, and into so much more. And I'm just really inspired by Kathy's experience and how she was able to take something that some people view as a negative thing and made it this positive opportunity for her to then go out there and explore her passions of cooking and family. And in this episode, we dive into all that. We dive into the understanding of your passions, into the connection of family. We talk about specifically during COVID-19, how she's been able to coexist with her husband, who I need to get to know because apparently he's the funniest dude on the planet. And I'm just really excited for you guys to hear this conversation. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Movement Live is now happening September 25, 26, 27, right here in Reading, Pennsylvania. Please come hang out with me, Natalie Jill, Anthony Trucks, Justin Wren, Nick Santanastasso, and all the other incredible speakers and movement makers. This event is sure to be a life-changing experience for so many. So whether you are somebody who is ready to take their life to the next level, whether you want to just come and have a good time, or whether you are an experienced dedicated entrepreneur who is looking to make massive connections in your life, this event is for you, and it is happening in September. Head over to gnmlive.com, grab your tickets now because it is sure to be life-changing, and I cannot wait to see you guys there. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Kathy Wakile. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin. It's great to be part of the show. How are you?
I'm doing super well. I am, it's funny. We got connected by Fabio 2 years ago. You said the dates, like 2017 or something like that?
Yeah, 2017. Yeah.
Which is crazy. And here we are in 2020 and we finally have you on the show. And I'm excited about the conversation because since back in 2017, I've been aware of who you are and I've been watching what you're doing and the launch of your podcast and your businesses and your books and all the things in between. But most people know you from Real Housewives of NJ, which I admitted to you beforehand. I have never watched the show, although I do have family members like my dad who love the show. But why don't we talk about who is Kathy today? And then we'll break down how you got there.
Who is Kathy today? Kind of person that I've been since, I would say, 1991. I'm the same person, which is really pretty awesome. A lot smarter, a lot more, a lot braver, I would have to say. But I'm a wife. That's the year I got married, in 1991. So I'm a wife and I'm a mom, and I love to cook. I love my family. That's the biggest. I have to say that's one of my proudest accomplishments. My relationship with my husband and the relationship I have with my kids. I have businesses. Sure, I'm an author, but I follow things that make me feel good, and I pursue things that make me feel good, that feel right, Yeah.
No, I love that.
And that's what brought me here.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? And so that's why we're chatting now. And you talk about a marriage since 1991.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment in itself. To think about, I mean, I'm really, really bad at math. Let's be honest. What's that?
28 years. We're going, September will be 29 years.
That is crazy. So what has that journey been like? Has it been a constant evolution? Obviously, you've gone through a lot in that time. You ended up on a television show that millions of people watch and so on and so forth. But like, what did that look like as your life grew? How did you hold that all together?
Well, I think, finding the right partner is number one. But I'm going to be completely honest with everyone that is maybe getting married or is in their first year of marriage. First year pretty much sucked.
Really?
It was hard. I mean, I got married, I was 26 years old. My husband was 28. And I turned 26 on our honeymoon. But it was hard. I lived home with my parents until we got married. He lived home with his parents until we got married. And so it was trying to figure out, our roles. And as a man, and not to take anything away from men, and he pretty much just moved from one house to another. His responsibilities got greater as far as, financially and planning for a future and, taking care of a household and all that. But on my end, I was still doing my job. I was still working my career. I was a hairdresser at the time. But then I inherited a whole new set of responsibilities and, the caregiver and the nurturer and all that. And I assumed a very traditional, wife role. It's very different nowadays. 30 years ago, it's a big change, a big time difference. Things have evolved and couples are a lot more open to sharing roles. But when we first got married, it was more traditional in a sense. Wife does this and husband does this. Right. But we grew together, and I think that's really what the most important thing, the biggest takeaway to a 30-year marriage is. You have to be accepting of each other, respectful of each other's dreams, desires, wishes for the future, goals, and those goals should be similar. They have different ones, of course, to maintain your own identity, but at the same time, those goals need to be, they need to come together and have respect for each other's goals at the same time. And so I think communication and respect plays a big part of it, and just trying to figure that out. Take those vows really serious, because there's going to be a lot of good times, but there's going to be a lot more hard times. And all those hard times make the good times that much sweeter, if that makes any sense.
No, for sure. And it really does. And that's life, right? Like, not everything is perfect in life for most people, but then they think they're going to get married and they're going to have this fairy tale life like that's written in the books and the Disney movies and whatever else. And that's just not reality. I mean, that's something that we kind of take into all areas of our life. Now, as you kind of grew in this marriage and, you ended up on the reality show Real Housewives of New Jersey. First of all, what did that look like? Like, how did that even begin? So I'll back up for a second. So I got asked to be on a show one time, and I had to send in a video to the producers and all these things. Obviously the show never ended up going forward, but I don't know. Is that how that works with Real Housewives? How does that onboarding process look like? And how did you decide, yes, I'm going to do this?
Well, for me, I don't know how everybody else got on. It seems now things have changed quite a bit, but from when I came on third season, and at the end of the second season of the show, I was familiar with everyone. I knew everyone on the show because I grew up, in the neighborhood. One of the girls is my cousin, so I knew about the show. I never had any desire to be on the show at all. I had been at events that they were filming, and I was always in the background, away from the cameras, all that stuff. But I was at the time, and still very interested in the culinary world and cooking and entertaining. And, I would go to cooking events and go to, my favorite pastime was to go to different stores like Bed Bath & Beyond, or there used to be the Chef Central, and they would have cooking demos, and I'd go and just watch. And, that was a real big part of my life that I loved to do. And I was like a Food Network addict, at the time. And so when I got approached, and I would post a lot of stuff, my videos or pictures of stuff that I cooked or baked or what have you. And so when it was March of 2010, I believe, and I got an inbox in my Facebook. And so the message read something like, hi, I'm a casting producer for reality shows like Cake Boss. We work with networks like TLC, HGTV, Food Network, Bravo, and many more. You would be perfect for the role that we're currently casting for, or for the show that we're currently casting. Can we do a call? And so I was like, what? This is such a joke, and I just, and I had
through
just,
Facebook of all places.
Right. And I had just signed on to Facebook because my kids at the time were young and they were just getting into Facebook. And that was the only reason why I joined Facebook, was so I could stalk my kids and know, what they were doing, and like just kind of censor everything that they were putting out there. No, take that off, that type of thing. Because I am a helicopter mom, always will be. Thank you very much. So So we were on vacation actually in Florida, my husband and I. So I just disregarded the inbox, and then they messaged me again. And so a week later, I finally tell my husband, we're walking on the beach, and I tell him, I go, listen, I got a message from somebody, and he goes, well, all right, so just answer them back and say you'll get on a call. What's the big deal? And I said, well, I don't know. This could be like something weird. He goes, okay, so if it's weird, you block your number, and you just don't ever answer the phone again, or just block that person. So I said, okay. So I did. And so we got on a call. And at the time, I had no idea it was for Real Housewives of New Jersey. I thought that I was getting a cooking show, or they were interested in me in some kind of travel or, some kind of food show.
Right.
And so I went along with the whole process. And so then they were, oh my God, you're so funny. You're so, whatever. You're so interesting. What, I'd love to have your husband on the call too. And so my husband was like, all right, cool. I'll get on the call. And so we get on the call, and they're, the one thing that I forgot to mention before about my husband and our relationship is he is funny as hell. He's really, really funny, like just naturally funny, sarcastic, raw. He's just funny. He's always made me laugh from the minute I met him. So that helps in a marriage. So the girl, the casting director, just thought that it was just the funniest thing. And she says, oh, I think you guys would be perfect for this. Can we do an interview in person? And we would love to meet your kids. And so at this point, I knew it was kind of a legit process, but I still didn't know what show it was for. So I was like, sure, no problem. Well, and this took place in like May. They came to my house. They videoed me, my kids, interviewed us, my husband, things that we were doing. They were putting together. Sorry about that. They were putting together a sizzle reel, I guess they call it, and then they wrapped. It was supposed to be like an hour and a half interview. It ended up being like 6 hours. They hung out all night, had a blast with them. And then they shut the cameras off. And then I said, okay, well, listen, I'm going to start cooking dinner. You're welcome to stay. We'd love for you to join us. And then I started cooking dinner, and then they pulled up the cameras again. And I was like, wait, I thought we were done. And they were like, no, this is amazing. You're a whiz in the kitchen. We love this. And meanwhile, I was in like a cocktail dress, because that's how I interviewed. And I had heels on, and I just started cooking, and they were eating it all up, and so I was like, okay, sure. So fast forward, they kept like calling, and I still didn't know what this was for. I thought a cooking show. And then they finally called me in July and says, oh, we're still, you're like one of the forerunners for this. And I was like, all right, cool. I never really pursued it at all. And then they finally told me what it was for, but I wasn't allowed to talk about they had interviewed me. I wasn't allowed to mention that people came to my house, and I didn't. I'm that person. I could you could tell me something and it goes in the vault. I don't really talk. My husband always yells at me. He says, small talk is really cool, Kath. You could tell me what happened during your day. And I'm like,
that's great.
I'm just, it doesn't matter. It's not really that relevant, So, And then they kept telling me that I was one of the top picks, and I had no idea. Then finally they told me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
I'm not doing that. I have never wanted to be on that show. I don't want to do it. You could count me out. I didn't tell them that. I told my husband that.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, why? What's the big deal? And I was like, listen, I don't want to fight with anybody. And this show is a lot, like, especially I don't want to fight with my cousin. I don't know if that's what they're going to try and do, but I don't want any part of that, And then I said, but let's go through the process and see if they just pick us. It would be kind of cool to see, there's always that curiosity, and then she found out about it before I could tell her. And
so your cousin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she told me, she just came right out and said, I can't believe that you would do this and you signed on to be on this show. And I was like, wait a minute, well, let's back this shit up here. I didn't sign on for anything, I didn't sign on. I didn't agree to anything. I just was interviewed, but it didn't go anywhere.
Right.
So I don't know what you're talking about, and it just got out of control. And then I was like, to fast forward it, they had told her first to see what her reaction was. And she gave them exactly what they were looking for. Conflict.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was like, I love my cousin. I would never fight with her. We spent so much time together. That was my approach to the whole thing. And like I said, I wasn't doing it. And then the way her reaction towards the network sealed the deal. They wanted me even more now. And it also, her reaction towards me and her lack of understanding where I was coming from, and then her actions afterwards lit a fire in me. It was more like, they don't want somebody like you. It was like she was very negative. And
so you were like, watch me.
Exactly.
I love it.
Then it became a part, now you've challenged me. And I'm not a competitive person whatsoever. I have a pizza and I want everybody to eat from that pizza. Even if I get a 1/16 of the slice, I want everybody to eat from that pizza. And you know what? You take your pieces first. I'll take the crust. How's that? I am so not competitive. But when the things that she started to say, and that really, I was like, okay, now game on, Yeah.
So like, you were like, I need to stick up for myself. And like, obviously this platform is the greatest way to do it.
Not so much that. It was more like, I could show the world that I could be popular by being nice and being who I really am. And, showing the world a different type of housewife or a different type of family, that is from New Jersey and isn't only married to an Italian, that type of thing. Because I was the only one on the show, besides Jacqueline, of course, that wasn't married, to an Italian. Everybody else was Italian. And like, there are different, this is a melting pot for sure in New Jersey, and so it was that, it was the whole thing,
So what was it about? I mean, you went from not wanting to be on it, and now you're like, okay, now I'm on it for, 5 seasons. So did you look at this as a vehicle to launch everything you're doing now? Because you're in so many projects now.
No, I didn't really look at it that way. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's it's a reality show about my family and about other families in New Jersey. And this is my reality. And that's all. I wasn't looking to launch a business. I wasn't looking to write a book. I wasn't looking for any of those things. I just did it to showcase my reality and how we interacted with one another, and mostly about my family, my immediate family, and our life, and how I'm raising my children, and my relationship with my husband, and I didn't have any of that in my mind, but what had happened was, after the first few episodes started to air, people started asking me for recipes and, oh my God, I love how you do this. And I love what you're doing with your family. And oh my God, your relationship with your husband. And so I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. My lifestyle is something that is really, there's something here, something. It's funny how the viewers actually made me a brand where I had no intention of ever becoming a brand, like that. And then offers started coming in, for me to do cooking shows and for me to write a book. And this was stuff that I loved so much. So it was like, okay, I could do that. I could start writing recipes down. I couldn't keep up. And then I got a book offer. They came to me. St. Martin's
awesome.
Press came to me, and it was based off, the name of my book is Indulge. And it was based off something I said on the show. I had said, sometimes, because I love desserts and always have loved desserts, but I found a way of, having your cake and eating it too, just making them small, And so as a request from viewers, they wanted to see that, more of that, And so St. Martin's Press reached out to me and they said, we love this whole idea of you writing a book about mini desserts. And we love what you said. And so what I said on the show was, sometimes I see really skinny girls and they're really not happy. You know what, honey, have a cupcake, indulge. Life is too short. Something like that. I said,
I love
because what happened was I was being attacked and ridiculed by a bunch of these like workout fanatics that came to me. They came to my event and they were trying to downplay what I do and saying about how desserts are no good for you. And I was like, well, they're little, and each dessert has has about 100 calories, and there's not a lot of sugar in my desserts. And life is really about a balance. Nobody can live a strict lifestyle. You're not happy when you live so strictly and, you color in between the lines, that you can't live that way. And so that's pretty much my philosophy.
You know what I love about this story is that when I look at, like, obviously writing that cookbook and now your podcast, Eat, Live, Love, Indulge, you've really centered it around your passions and who you authentically are. Right. And I think a lot of times people look at least from my outside perspective, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people look at reality shows and they go, oh, that's fake. That's for the cameras. That's all these things. And you're like, no, I'm approaching this in an authentic way. And now what you're doing with everything, as far as I read somewhere you have like a cannoli company. Is that still a thing?
Yes.
Okay.
How that came about again was, so it was the first season, I believe it was. Yeah, it was the first season I was on, and actually season 3. But they producers came to me and says, okay, Thanksgiving's coming. Can you make a dessert to bring to one of the other girls' houses? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I'll make dessert, but nobody else brings dessert. I'm going to do a whole dessert table. And because that's what I do at my own house. And so they were like, okay, cool. So then the producers came to me and said, can you make like a big giant cannoli and stuff it, with cream? And I was like, yeah, I could do that, but that's stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. It's a waste because the cannoli cream would destroy the shell. It would make it soggy and it would be a waste. And you know what? The bottom line is you're trying to make fun of us Italians. That's what you're trying to do. We don't need to give you more material to goof on the Italians, So I said, I'll come up with something. So what I did was I made one big cannoli shell and I stuffed it with like 100 or so mini cannolis. And so that, to me, that made sense because you could eat pick from the little mini cannolis. They stay crunchy and the way that cannolis are supposed to be eaten. And then the outside shell, the outer shell, I had put a bunch of cannoli cream on the table in a bowl, and everybody used it as a chip and dip afterwards. So there was no waste. I grew up in a time where you didn't waste food, and it was a sin. And and food was something that was supposed to sustain us, not something for show only. And so it had to make sense to me. And so then I got requests. How do you make cannolis? How do you make cannolis? Can you ship me cannolis? And and so then it was an idea of how do we ship cannolis with making them so people can make them at home themselves, because people love that feeling of, of accomplishment, that they made something fresh from their home themselves. And the cannoli kit is that, so you get 24 cannolis, mini cannolis that are wrapped in plastic, and a bag of cannoli cream that's already in a pastry bag that comes to your house frozen. So it's packed on dry ice. You let the cream defrost. It only takes about a half an hour to an hour to defrost, sitting out on your counter, and you fill the cannolis yourself. So it does two things. It's a great thing that you have fresh in your house. You keep it in your freezer until you're ready to make them. Number two, you feel like you made dessert. And number three, you don't have to go out to a bakery to go pick up and get freshly made cannoli. And it's something that when you have company over to your house, it's something it's like those chocolate chip cookies that come frozen, or any kind of baked goods that come frozen. You actually made it yourself. And it's something fun you could do as a family, and anybody can make them, and you could personalize them. So, and that's what I did. I came up with this kit, and it sells on goldbelly.com now. I was on QVC 3 times with it.
Nice.
And so being on QVC really sets the standard, because they have very strict guidelines. And then after that, I signed on with Goldbelly. And so goldbelly.com, if you punch in Kathy Wakile's cannoli, or Indulge with Kathy Wakile on Goldbelly, you could order a cannoli kit and you can have them delivered to your house.
That's awesome. And again, like, I think, when people are listening, there's one or two things that they're thinking, right? Like, they're either going, wow, this woman has so many opportunities because she was on a reality show, or they can say, I need to listen to what people are saying I'm good at, right? Like, people came to me and they're like, hey, how do you do this podcasting thing? Long before my podcast even took off. Right. And so, you have to pay attention to those things. And that's what you do. Like, you understand. And obviously, I'm sure being on Real Housewives and continuing to grow your audience, you've gotten so many opportunities.
Absolutely.
But you're
crazy.
You're sticking to what's true to your heart.
Right. Like, there were so many different, like, as soon as I was on the show, and, the emails just started flooding in, and opportunities started flooding in, where, like, you could be involved in this, and you could do this, and you could do that. And all you have to do is invest some money, and, or we'll do it all, but you just sign your name to it. And that was crazy. The amount of opportunities that came my way. But you have to know, some people in the reality world approach that with a different mindset, and they're like, grab it all, because you don't know how long you're going to be on this, and grab it all. And that's cool if that's the way you want to go. But for me, if it didn't make sense to me, if it wasn't what I would really love to do, or if, like, I wasn't going to be a dancer. That's just not in my wheelhouse. It's just not who I have 2 left feet. I wasn't going to start singing all of a sudden, even though, I've been told that I have a decent podcast voice. Singing has never been my dream. It's never been something I wanted to do. I'm not going to do it regardless if I have a good voice or I don't have a good voice. I'm just not going to do it. Right. There's been things that have come my way, quite a bit of things that came my way, and they just didn't feel right. And I just said, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah, it would bring me a lot of money, but I'm not going to do it, because it's just not who I am. And so, like I said, you could approach this in many different ways. And for me, staying, and this is so cliche, be authentic, be your authentic self. Everybody's saying that these days, but that's always been my thing. Like, my husband laughs and he says, your wife is really who she is on TV. And he goes, yeah, I've been trying to change her for 30 years and I have had no luck. This is who she is. I'm just, if it doesn't feel right, it's not morally sound, it's going to compromise my integrity. Because I was on a reality show, and I took that word reality, like, to heart. Like, this, if it's not my reality, yeah, there were certain circumstances, certain events maybe that I normally would have not gone to, opportunities like that I would have not gone to if I wasn't on a reality show. But if I was placed in a situation, I was going to be my real, true self. I was going to, I remember one instance, we were in Dominican Republic and they were having this dance-off, sexy couple dance-off contest. And the producers wanted Rich and I to be a part of it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And they said, no, you don't even understand. You're going to be like the fan favorite with this, and it's going to be really great. And I'm not that great of a dancer, even though I've taken dance lessons and stuff like that. And I go, no, I'm not doing it. I would never enter a contest. It doesn't feel right to me. I see where you're going with the other contestants, and I'm just not going to do it. So I wanted to, something that Rich and I promised each other and promised our kids when we decided to do this show was that we would never do anything to embarrass them. Like intentionally do something that was going to embarrass them. Mm-hmm. We would never, because it was our reality. And we knew that this was not going to last forever. This whole fun time was not going to last forever. And we'd need to be able to go back to our normal lives. We'd need to be the people we were before. And that's what we did. We didn't go and lease a fancy car just to show that we could do it. We didn't go and do anything crazy and spend crazy amount of money because, it would make great TV. We were who we were. And when it wasn't making good TV anymore, then it was time for us to be off. Mm-hmm. So
no,
that's the way we approached it.
And I love that. So you have these morals and these values that you hold true to your life, and you guys stuck to that. And when I've met people in their life who stick to their true values, mm-hmm. They find happiness, they find contentment, they find success in many ways. Mm-hmm. So what are the values in your life that you hold? This is above all else. Obviously family, we can hear that in how you talk. And I'm sure anybody who's watched the show, they saw it on the show, but what are your other values that are non-negotiable for you?
Honesty. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie about something. It's just I'm not somebody that will put on airs just can't do it. Respect is number one. Respect people, respect the janitor, respect the everyone as if they're CEOs. That's a big saying. For me, I'm a Christian, so treat everyone as if they're your brother. Because they are your brother. So respect is really big. Honesty, kindness. You don't know what somebody else is going through, that those are pretty much it. And I think that if you keep with those morals throughout everything that you do, success can be measured in so many different ways. And for me, success is being able to have a happy household and be able to sleep well at night because you didn't screw somebody over, or, you respect everyone going through life and keep an open mind about things. I mean, that's pretty much it. And work really damn hard. Really hard, honest work it's a great thing. I mean, I just been working my ass off in this time of self-isolation and I feel good. I feel fulfilled. I feel like I've accomplished something, No,
and I love that. And so we had talked before I hit record. We actually chatted for probably 30 minutes before I even hit record, and we talked about what's happening right now with this self-isolation. And the one thing I got from you was you're totally just content, right? You're living in your values, you're moving forward in your goals, and you're not allowing what's happening in the world around you to affect what's happening for you, because you're just controlling what you can control, which I love. I also love the fact that you answered my success question before I even asked it, which was what your definition of success is. because it's so true. Like success can be measured in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you tie your successes to what your values are, and what your conscience is telling you to do. And it's so true in everything that you've built out. And, obviously you guys just recently launched a podcast as well. Let's talk about that a little bit. What was the idea behind the podcast? Why did you do it? Obviously a lot of people are jumping into the game, but I love the reason behind why you guys did it.
So for me, it's always around this time of the year too, that I'm a very, very creative person, extremely creative. I love to work with my hands. Both of my parents are very creative. I grew up in a household of doers, like laborers, people that worked hard, that lived off the land. My parents are both immigrants. They lived very, very, very humbly. My father was a shoemaker. My mother was a seamstress. And so they made everything. If they had to lay tile, they did it together. They put wallpaper up together. If they screwed up, all right, well, the next wall was going to be better, but they tried, and they always tried. And so for me, creativity and being artistically inclined has always been part of my life. And so this time of the year, I don't know, maybe it's after coming through the winter, and I was feeling like I was not fulfilling my creativity in a positive way. Like I wasn't doing something. I feel like every day I need to do something creatively. Otherwise, I'm kind of just either dormant or like dead inside. And I hate that. And so this time of the year is always a time of rebirth. Again, being a Christian, it's time where I look in, inwardly and think about how I can improve my life and do something that's worthy, and what is my purpose. And so I was sitting around, my husband was away. I think my husband and my son were away. They went to the Middle East actually to visit his family. And I was home. I had a lot of time on my hands. I wasn't cooking regular meals every single night. It was just my daughter and I. And I started thinking, what am I doing? Like I'm just sitting here and I didn't have a purpose today. And so I got on the phone with one of my friends, and he says, well, what's going on? He calls me Mom. And he says, what's going on, Mom? What's happening? And I said, well, I don't know. I just feel like I'm being stifled. I'm not fulfilling my creativity. I'd like to do something. I'd like to connect more with my followers, with the people that have invested their time with me through social media, through the show, and they still keep wanting me to do something. And I think I'm going to do a podcast. And he said, okay, do it. Do it then. And he goes, well, what would it be about? And I said, well, I'd love to know, to be able to incorporate my cooking in the family meals that we have and we share together. And the people that come and sit at my table, because I feel like there's always a seat at my table. Like, oh yeah, I'll put another plate on. Why not? And he goes, Mom, that sounds great. That's a great idea. And so, but I'd love to incorporate travel, and I'd love to incorporate what I did today and what we're eating tonight and how we're living, and indulge me in what's happening with you. And so that's where it all came from. So it was eat the food that we're blessed to have, live life to the fullest, because in our house, we feel that every day that is a good day, you have to grab it. So live life to the fullest. Love the people that you're with, love what you're doing, and indulge in not just the food, but conversation, indulge in life. Whether, fashion is your thing, indulge in it and share your indulgence. And if you love helping people, okay, indulge me that conversation about how you're helping people. If you're a fitness fanatic, tell me all about it. Tell me what makes your life better. And it's all set around my kitchen table and breaking bread with one another, just the simplest form of, that's another thing I said on the show when I was on Real Housewives. I said feeding people was one of the most intimate experiences that you could share with someone that isn't about being physical. It is. It's like feeding someone is like something that you made with your hands. You are nourishing them. You're feeding them. You're bringing them life, and you're feeding their soul. You're feeding their desires that way, and you're nourishing them with wholesome, good food. Breaking bread is like one of the simplest things that we could do for one another, breaking bread together, feeding someone. And so that's how it was born. And I'm having so much fun. I'm having so much fun connecting with people, sharing their stories and talking about food, travel, life in general.
You have to have Fabio on the show. He needs to come to your house.
Oh, I would love for him to come to my house. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. We've been lucky enough. We met actually years ago on the set of, I don't know if it's even still around, but I don't think it is, called Better TV. And we were both doing cooking segments. And he was amazing, like from the very get. He was like a friend that I knew from another life or something like that. And then we connected again at the food festival in Miami, and then connected again when we went to Chicago. And then his wife, Ashley, is just amazing. You can find her on Instagram as Juliet. She's just an amazing woman. And we've stayed in contact over the years, and he's been a great friend. I actually became a fan of his from watching Top Chef, and totally related to him 100%, because the kitchen is like, it's a place where we all come together.
Yeah. My audience knows how much I love Fabio and how I got introduced to him. Real Housewives isn't the only show I don't watch. I didn't watch that show either. And so I didn't know who he was. And I went to an event that he was one of the speakers. And I literally said to my friend, I was like, who cares about a chef? And he spoke, and I turned to my friend after he spoke and I go, I need to be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
And a year and a half later, I became friends with him. And he's just one of the nicest human beings. But, I obviously being connected with you on Instagram has been great. Your food looks amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Listening to your show, I love the dynamic that you bring to the conversation. So, everybody listening, make sure you go check out the show. Highly, highly recommend. It's just great. And this is coming from somebody who I didn't know you from the show. So like
right.
You've transcended that. You've gone above and beyond. And I absolutely love that part about you is that you're so much more than so many people that end up in that kind of world and they get pigeonholed, right? Like you've expanded and you are yourself. And I love that. So I want to admire you for that.
Thank you.
No, for sure. Obviously I've loved this conversation. I've loved everything about it, but what would be your tips to somebody listening? What would be the secret in your opinion to living life fully?
Oh, let's see. It's living life fully. I think, again, circling back, do what feels right and what feels good. And again, another cliche, what sets your soul on fire? Like, you'll know when you're doing it. If you're smiling when you're doing it, and if you don't look at your phone or you don't look at your watch and realize how long you've been at it, go with that, because you're obviously having a great time with it. We're so connected to our phones these days, connected to the time frame. And if anything, this self-isolation and this quarantine time has done for any of us, it's given us a time to look into ourselves and figure out what we're really about and what makes us happy. Whether it's, if you are having a hard time with it, what about this time is giving you a hard time? Well, what about it is making you upset? Is it the fact that you can't be with your friends? Well, then maybe that, or is it that you can't be social? Or is it that you can't go to your job? Or is it that you love being home, being creative, or you love what you're doing? Like, figure out this is a time. I think that the world and God really works in mysterious ways. Figure out what it is about this time that's made you think, because you've stepped off the treadmill. Use this time to be positive and to go forward into the future. How you're going to go? Yeah, you could jump on that treadmill again, but you could also step off the treadmill and start climbing mountains. Not literally, but if that's what you're into, then go for it. But you could start attacking those hurdles that you've been afraid to attack before, and what do you got to lose? You got nothing to lose. So if it doesn't work, you try something else. I think just doing things that really make you feel good and that are true to who you really are. That's the biggest problem these days. Like everybody, I'm gonna go there, Justin. We talked about this another time. All these people on Facebook trying to be somebody that they're not. Or and I shouldn't say Facebook, or on Instagram or on social media, trying to be something that be the person that you admire, but make it yourself, make it yours.
Yeah.
Make it yours. I don't want to step in anybody's, throw a wrench in anybody's dream to say, don't go for, somebody that they aspire to be like. But remember during that time that you're aspiring to have a life that's like somebody else's. Make sure that it's your life and own what's authentic to you. Make it yours. Don't make it a copy of somebody else's, because that the copy is never as good as the original, So
I love that. It's so true. It's so true. And, I talk about it fairly often about how everybody's pretending to be something they're not. And I get it. You have aspirations and you want to be, but just be you. Like, that's what drew people, I believe, to this show. That's what drew people to you and your family. And I think that's so, so, so powerful. So, Kathy, how do people get a hold of you? How do they get more from you, whether it be Instagram or the podcast? What's all the good stuff?
Okay. So if you're in New Jersey and you want to come visit us at Pizza Love, that's the restaurant we opened up. It's Pizza Love, and it's in Wyckoff, New Jersey. If you want to follow me on Instagram, follow me at Kathy Wakile. It's on the same on Instagram, just KathyWakile. It's the same on Instagram, my Facebook, and my Twitter. You could search me at KathyWakileDesserts.com. And you can order my cannoli kits at goldbelly.com, Kathy Wakile. I'm very, very reachable. My podcast is Eat, Live, Love, Indulge by Kathy Wakile. I am going to be launching it independently, so it'll be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you listen to your podcast. I'm excited for the new chapter. I'm excited for this whole time of self-isolation it's a time of rebirth, I believe. And
I love it.
And it's a time for us to see where we're going next.
And Kathy, obviously, as you know, this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single interview with this one question. That is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to come up with something so profound, because I do listen to your podcast and I do listen to what everybody else says. But I have to say that my moment of growth, there's been so many moments. And I think that after the darkest times in my life, whether it be, my daughter's a 2-time brain tumor survivor. I don't know if you knew that, but she's gone through 2 extensive brain surgeries. And during those times were the darkest. First of all, as I mentioned before, when we first got married, it was so hard. And then we grew. And then, it's just right before that elastic is about to break is when we realized that we grew. My daughter going through her surgeries, and the darkest time, we got through it. And I've grown, and I know how to handle things. And, being on the Housewives, being on the Real Housewives of New Jersey, there was a time where it was like, oh my God, my life has changed so much. Am I ever going to bounce back from this? Because there was some hard times in that, there was some difficult times that we went through on the show.
Yeah.
And, I grew, after that. So I think that there wasn't one moment. I've been blessed to have a lot of moments, losing my father, and losing my father-in-law. Those were really dark times, but we grew from it, and we learned that we can survive and even become closer and become stronger. And each dark moment prepared me for the next dark moment, So I think it's like that old saying, it's not a matter of how many times you've fallen, it's how many times you've gotten back up.
Yeah. So true. Kathy, this conversation has been incredible. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour plus. So we're going to have you back on the show at some point.
Sure.
But this has been amazing. And, you know, once we get through this coronavirus lockdown, whatever you guys want to call it, hopefully you and I can break some bread together and build a friendship. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
I would love it. I'd love to have you on my podcast too. So look forward to it.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.